Now, the first video in the Snare Saturday series, I showed you my very first snare drum. Well, in this video, I'm gonna show you the very first snare drum that I ever built. What is going on, everybody? Nick Costa here, and in this video, I am going to show you the very first drum that I ever built, way back in 2009. Now, before we dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification. That way you're notified of any additional content that I upload to the channel. Now, with these long form videos that I've recently been uploading, you may have noticed a trend going on. It all started out with an Orange County drums and percussions vented snare drum. Then I showed you my very first snare drum, which I drilled 4 big vents into. And with this video, I'm showing you the very first drum that I ever built. And to be completely transparent with all of you, the look, specs, and everything else are based off of some of the acrylic drums that Orange County were releasing. So this drum in particular is a 7x14 acrylic shell. That is depth by diameter. Now, to make it look similar to the drums that I was seeing my favorite drummers play, I put 1-inch tube lugs on it and I did a 50% offset, which means that instead of them being in line, they stagger. Of course, this also meant that the snare drum got a Trick GS007 throw off, which you've seen on tons of custom built snare drums. And this was actually before the multi-step throw off that Trick released, so it's just an on and off. Now for hoops, I went with die cast hoops because I wanted the drum to be way more direct and because I knew I was going to be tuning it pretty high. We also installed 2 half-inch vents on either side of the shell. Finally, I equipped the snare drum with a set of Pure Sound custom 24-strand snare wires. Now, as far as assembly was concerned, I received the shell with the snare beds and the bearing edges already cut because back then I had no idea what I was doing and didn't have the tools to actually make that happen. When it finally came time to put all of this together, however, I asked for my college roommate, Dave Cifelli, and his dad to help me assemble this drum. So one Saturday, I went over to their house, brought all of the components with me, and we went to work. Since this was the first drum any of us have ever built, we did it a little bit differently than how you're supposed to. Like, for example, we had no idea that companies sold mats that you could put a shell on and actually already had the lines laid out for you so you knew where to drill. Now, if you've ever built a drum before and you're doing any type of offset with your lugs, this means that you have to measure and lay out the drum 2 different times. So when you put the shell on these mats that already have everything laid out for you, it actually goes by the diameter of the shell and how many lugs you're installing on the drum. So in this case, since I was going with 10 lugs, rather than placing it on the 14-inch diameter and then marking it for 10 lugs, I had to do all of that, but then I also had to rotate the shell because I was offsetting the lugs. So Dave and his dad actually did the math and created a mat that allowed us to lay out this shell. This allowed us to make sure that the lugs were equally spaced apart from one another and that the throw off in the butt plate ended up where the snare beds were. So not only was this drum designed by me and put together by me, my college roommate, and his dad, it was also a one-off drum that I knew not everybody could get their hands on, unless of course they designed one. And also, not many companies were making acrylic drums at the time. So now it's time to actually hear what this drum sounds like. Just like all of my other demo videos, what I'm going to do is play through a few different tunings so you can hear what this sounds like. So enough of me talking, let's dive in. there you have it, my very first snare drum that I ever built, which was a 7x14 acrylic snare. Now, I'd love to hear what you thought of the sound of the drum and what your favorite tuning was, so feel free to leave that in the comment section below, letting me know. Also, if you have any questions on how to build a snare drum or our process of putting it together, you can also leave that in the comment section, and I'll try and help out in any way that I can. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. That way it makes it a little bit easier for others to find it as well. And that is it. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and got something from it. And until next time, see you later.